Hey guys, it's Cece, and today I'm here to talk about all of the books that I acquired in March, and there are a few. So in March, I truly set out to not buy that many books, and in that regard I succeeded. I did not buy many books, but I was sent a lot of books, and it was my birthday, so people sent me a lot of books. So I have a lot to talk about. I should include a clip of me attempting to get a thumbnail of this entire stack because some of these books are hefty sons of bitches. Like, usually a stack of 23 is a lot, but it's not that heavy. The problem is I have multiple books, I think, over 500 pages, and that just added to the overall heft of the stack. Here's how I'm gonna break this down. I think we're going to do arcs. There are a few arcs, hard copies that have been sent to me by publishers, and then at the end, we will do all of the birthday books. Where do I include? I don't know, somewhere in the middle I'll include a couple of the books I purchased myself. I think there are 3 I have a pre-order and 2 I purchased secondhand, but we're gonna start with arcs, hard copies, books I purchased myself, and birthday gifts. I hope that sounds good to everybody because that's what we're doing. So honestly, of the stack, I only have 3 arcs to talk about. I do have a couple of other arcs I was sent, but those were birthday gifts, so those will be later. But I have 3 arcs to talk about. First, I have If It Makes You Happy by Kann. This was sent to me by Swoon Reads. I was so ecstatic when this came in the mail, because Kann's book that I read last year, Let's Talk About Love, was... I absolutely adored that book, and I keep recommending it to people. But this is her sophomore novel, which is coming out in June. We've got another beautiful black girl on the cover, Kann, and her covers. So this follows Winnie, who is just trying to take it easy this summer before college, and then out of the blue she is appointed the Misty Haven Summer Queen, and she has to deal with being in the spotlight, which she doesn't really love. I don't know exactly the rep in this book that it is, like, discussing. There is a note on the back that, it says with her family and un-girlfriend at her side. It's going to be queer, it's going to be adorable, it's going to be great. I'm so excited. I was also sent an early copy of Love from A to Z by S.K. Ali. This was one of my other most anticipated releases of the year. I was so thrilled when Simon & Schuster sent me this book. Basically, this is a Muslim love story, which is super, super exciting. A lot of people loved S.K. Ali's, like, first book that came out last year. I didn't get a chance to read that one. If I read and love this one, I will definitely check out, I think it was Saints and Misfits. It's literally on the cover. Saints and Misfits, right there. But I will check out Saints and Misfits if I love this, and I'm expecting to love this. And the final arc that I'm going to talk about in this portion, I have been dying since it arrived. It is Of Ice and Shadows by Audrey Coulthurst, the sequel to Of Fire and Stars. So I don't know how many people know this, but Of Fire and Stars was one of the first arcs that I, like, really rallied to get. I'd received arcs before this, but, like, I was entering giveaways, I was engaging with Audrey on social media at all times in an attempt to get my hands on this book, and I wound up winning a giveaway that Audrey ran, and so this arc is signed. And then when I was working with Audrey on the promotion for Star World, which is her upcoming release, she sent along this arc of Ice and Shadows, which, to match my other copy, is also signed. Look! I'm so happy. Of Fire and Stars was a book about a girl from a foreign kingdom who is engaged to a prince, and then when she gets there, she falls for his horse-riding sister instead. It's a princess love story that's also about forbidden magic and political intrigue, and I cannot wait to read the sequel. And this is being released in August of this year, so soon. The lighting in this room is driving me crazy. I'm switching over to this side. So, that is it for the arcs, but going along with the theme of stuff I was sent for the, like, Star World Booktube tour, I do want to talk about a few other books that were sent along by Paula and Audrey. So Audrey also sent along a copy of Inkmistress. This is, like, set in the world of Fire and Stars, but it's like hundreds of years earlier, so it's not really connected to the central story. This follows a bisexual lead, and I know that there is a male-female romance, and it is about Azra, who is a demigod with the ability to change the future by writing it in her own blood. Been super interested in reading this. I was so excited to get this. Audrey also sent along a a bookmark. Why couldn't I remember what a bookmark is called? And then this copy is also signed. Of Ice and Shadows is personalized, but this one and the other two I'm going to talk about are just signed. So Audrey sent along those two books, but Star World is by two people, so Paula Garner, the other author of Star World, also sent along two of her books. First up, we have Relative Strangers. I didn't know a ton about Relative Strangers, but honestly, it makes me super interested after reading Star World in the kind of things Paula Garner writes, because Zoe in Star World, she is dealing with really complex feelings that she was adopted when she was very young. And this book is about an 18-year-old named Jules who, in doing research to find a baby photo for her senior year yearbook, she discovers that for most of the first 2 years of her life she lived in foster care. So I'm really, really interested in this, especially after how much I loved Star World. I want to read more of Paula's writing. There you go. That's the signature on that one. And she also sent along her book Phantom Limbs, which I've heard a lot more about. People really loved Phantom Limbs. I honestly don't know a ton about this one. I think it's about grief, and I think the main character is training to be like an Olympic swimmer. It's about complex friend relationships, but a lot of people really, really love this book, so I was excited about that. This one came with a note from Paula, which is very sweet, and is also signed. Let me show you. There you go, there's that signature page. And Paula also included bookmarks for both of these books. So the Star World booktube tour I would have done regardless, but it was so, so sweet of Audrey and Paula to send along copies of their other books. Can't wait to read them all. I wanted to quickly mention The Murmur of Bees by Sofia Segovia, translated by Simon Bruni. I talked about this book in my last book haul, and that was when I received an ARC of this book, but the publicist sent along the hard copy as well. This is adult fiction with like a magical realism element, and it is about a small town in Mexico that discovers a baby underneath a bridge who is covered in a blanket of bees. And I'm very excited about this and was super excited to receive a hard copy. Received two books that were sent to me because they were like paperback releases, or in the case of Hold Still by Nina LaCour, this is a redesigned cover. The cover of Hold Still was redesigned to match Nina's other book, We Are Okay, so now these two go together very nicely. This is, I think, Nina's only book that I haven't read. Probably because it's like her earliest book and I've read everything else, but this is about a girl struggling with the suicide of her best friend, and a lot of people really highly recommend it, and I love Nina LaCour, so of course I'm gonna read it. I was also sent the new paperback edition of Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds, which is a book in verse. And this is about a boy named Will whose brother Sean has been shot and killed. So this gets so highly recommended. Look at all of the awards on this cover, it barely fits. I have been attempting every now and then to dip my toes into novels in verse because I've loved one or two, so I'm excited to read this one, and I was very, very excited when I was sent a copy. I was also sent a finished copy of The Poison Within by Rachel Marie Pearcy. I sent this by the author, of course, my good friend Rachel. This is the first book I've ever edited in full, so when I opened up the package and saw this book, I got a little teary because I was like, this is a book that I worked on, and like a book that I got to work with Rachel on, and now it's a full thing existing, and I'm so proud of her, and I'm so excited that I got to have any part in it. This one is of course signed since Rachel sent it along herself, but this is a redemption fantasy YA book about an evil queen who seeks refuge in a nearby kingdom and starts to fall for that kingdom's princess, and it's really excellent and wonderful, and I'm so excited to hold this book in my hands. Like, every time I hold it, it just feels a little bit more exciting. Look at it! It's real! It exists! It's so cool. I have two more hard copies that were sent to me by publishers. The first of those is Dealing in Dreams by Lilliam Rivera. This is a YA book about, a girl motorcycle gang. Also, I'm pretty sure it's sci-fi set in some kind of apocalyptic future, and it's about this main character in her girl gang trying to earn a spot in the mega towers, which is a really exclusive place to live, and yeah. I've been really excited about this one, especially since the cover was revealed, because I think it's got an absolutely gorgeous cover. Just look at that with the blue and the flowers. Really, really beautiful book, and it's getting some great reviews, so I'm glad that I get the chance to read it. And the last publisher hard copy that was sent to me is to Night Owl from Dogfish by Holly Goldberg Sloan and Meg Wolitzer. This is a middle grade book about two girls who are going to sleepaway camp together, and one of them figures out it's because their two dads are dating. And it sounds like it's gonna be really adorable. I don't know if I'm gonna have time to read this in April, but I am aiming in April to read only adult and middle grade, so if I somehow get through everything else, then I will jump into this one after all of those other books. Alright, now I'm gonna move on to the 3 books that I purchased myself. I have 2 books that I purchased secondhand. The first of those is Sweetbitter by Stephenie Danler. I know almost nothing about this book besides the fact that it is about a 22-year-old main character trying to navigate adulthood over 1 year in Manhattan, and I feel like I haven't read nearly enough books about people in their early 20s that are not about college. It's about, like, what happens after that? How do you become an adult? So I'm interested in this for that reason. Also, I know this has a series that I could possibly watch when I read it. I don't know. I just saw this secondhand and was like, oh, I've heard of that book. Let's buy it, because it was, yeah, $3, so not that bad at all. The other book I bought secondhand is gonna seem like totally out of left field, but go with me here. It's New Moon by Stephenie Meyer. I bought this book because I needed it for a video I made for Amino. I am doing like a partnership with Amino for a few months where I make a couple videos every single week, and I needed a hard copy of New Moon to complete that first video, so I went out, tested my running theory that if I ever needed to buy the entire Twilight Saga, I could walk into any given used bookstore and buy all of them at once. I was absolutely right. I could have purchased the entire Twilight Saga in hardcover walking into one used bookstore. I decided for now to just buy New Moon, but honestly, this is a book series I could see myself completing at some point. I don't, like, recommend the Twilight Saga, but they were a big part of my reading life in junior high, and I enjoyed rereading them in college, so, like, I wouldn't mind owning the rest. It might take me a while to acquire them, though. So. But I bought New Moon, which I know is super weird, but now I own it. And the last book I bought for myself is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I pre-ordered this book, so it arrived on March 5th on my doorstep, because it's, like, my most anticipated release of the year. Besides Call Down the Hawk, but that doesn't come out until November, so we have a while to wait. This is a sort of, like, Fleetwood Mac-inspired book about a band coming together in the 60s and 70s, and everybody loves it, and I'm prepared to love it also. Okay, with all of that out of the way, now I am going to talk about the books that I was sent for my birthday. You guys were so ridiculously kind on my birthday. I got so many amazing messages, so many kind comments, and it made that birthday really, really special to me, so thank you all so much. And also thank you so much to people who sent me additional gifts on top of that. It is more than I could have ever expected, but I'm over the moon to have some of these books in my possession, and I'm so excited to read them. So I was sent a couple of ARCs because I am lucky enough to have a couple of friends who have access to ARCs. The first one that I was sent is Tarnished Are the Stars by Rosiee Thor. This book is being released on October 15th of this year, and it was sent to me by the lovely Kaylee over at the channel Kaylee Hyde. Thank you, Kaylee, for understanding how much I want to read this book. This is like science fantasy, and it's about a girl with a clockwork heart, but what I'm excited about beyond that is that there is a central female-female romance, and one of the main characters is asexual. So, like, ridiculously thrilled to own this. I made a thread on Twitter a while ago that I think I called a thread of arcs I would kill a man just to get my hands on. This was one of the books on that list, as was The Devouring Grey by Christine Lynn Herman. This was sent to me by one of my lovely internet friends, Owl. They also sent along another book that I'll talk about in a minute, but they knew that I was really anticipating The Devouring Grey, so they sent along this arc, which I am currently reading. I'm a little bit into it. This book is supposed to be, I mean, it says on the cover, fans of the Raven Boys and Stranger Things rejoice, which now that I'm a little bit into this book, I completely understand the comparison. It is definitely a combination of those two things. This is set in a small town in New York called Four Paths, and there is a monster that lives in a place called the Grey that is slowly killing people who live in Four Paths, and it is up to the descendants of the four founding families to try to put a stop to it. So, very, very, very grateful to Owl for sending me this, and then they also sent me The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, which, like, I totally didn't expect. I knew that they were sending me The Devouring Grey, but this arrived along with it, and, like, I am so incredibly grateful to Owl because I'm so excited to read this book. This is one of my, like, top 10 to read books of this year. This is a novel in verse about a girl named Xiomara who is using slam poetry to understand her mother's relationship to religion and her own relationship to the world now that she's developed curves. This was one of the most celebrated books of 2018, and I can't wait to get to this book. So my friend Rachel, along with sending me that copy of The Poison Within, also sent me a graphic novel for my birthday. She sent me Hyperbole and a Half by Ali Brosh, which I can't believe I haven't read this. This is like a comedic graphic novel about depression and coping mechanisms, and like I've seen a ton of this art online before, but I've never actually read the full graphic novel, despite the fact that I've given it to other people. So Rachel totally nailed this one. I'm very excited to read it. Oh, she also got me a bookmark, this little kitty bookmark that goes on the edge of a page. She also got me that, so that was very sweet as well. Next up, we have Sovereign by April Daniels. This is the sequel to Dreadnought. This is one of my favorite superhero series of all time. I read both books as ebooks, and then I've received a copy of both books as gifts. This was sent to me by Rebecca, who is actually one of my librarian patrons, so like, thank you, Rebecca, for being so kind and generous. This is a series about a trans lesbian superhero who is kind of thrust out of the closet in book 1 when the superhero Dreadnought dies at her feet, and he gives her all of his abilities and also gives her a body that she's always wanted. It's an absolutely fantastic series. I love both books, and now I own both books, and maybe I can reread them at some point soon and like mark them up. It'll be so great. We are on to the last 3. So next up I have I'm Just a Person by Tig Notaro. This is Tig's memoir about the worst year of her life. This was sent to me by Savi, who also sent me a wonderful copy of Moonlight, one of my favorite queer films. Really, really excited to own Moonlight. I think I mentioned in a video recently that I am trying to expand my, like, owned queer library as far as movies, so getting queer film on DVD, on Blu-ray, so that I just have a solid collection of them, so I was really grateful when this also came with a copy of Moonlight. But Tig Notaro is one of my favorite comedians ever, certainly my favorite lesbian comic ever, and I loved the documentary about Tig going through this year of her life, so I'm really excited to read more in, like, her own words as a memoir. The last 2 books are both so chunky and so heavy, but, like, I'm so excited. The first one is On a Sunbeam by Tilly Walden. I am thrilled that I get to read this book. I read Tilly's graphic memoir, Spinning, and I loved it, and so I've been really eager to read more of Tilly's writing. This came with a really lovely note for my birthday. It didn't say who sent it to me, though, so if you are the person who sent me On a Sunbeam, let me know so I can write your name at the bottom of the note, because I do keep all of my notes tucked in a book that people sent me from my Amazon wishlist. This is a chunky graphic novel about a team exploring the depths of space. It is also about a girl's time in boarding school, and I believe there are like 2 central female romances, possibly one during her time in boarding school and one during her time exploring space. I'm unsure when exactly everything is set, but like, this started as a webcomic and everyone ever has been telling me to read it. And the final book I'm going to talk about in this haul, the final book I was sent for my birthday, at least in March. I think that I'm going to get a couple more at the beginning of April, but I'll talk about those in my April haul. So the final March book is Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This chunker of a book. This was sent to me by Bobby of Bobby Reads. I'm so thrilled. I don't know, like, I'm so intimidated by this book, but I'm really, really excited about it. This is a book about a queendom without an heir. There are a lot of central female characters. I think pretty much everybody who's a central character is a woman. I know there are also dragons involved, and I know there is at least one central female-female romance, but overall this is a very gay, very woman-centered fantasy epic. And this is a little over 800 pages long, so it's gonna take me a minute to get through it, but I am so excited to own this absolutely gorgeous book. It's so shiny and pretty and wonderful. Look at this spine. Everything about this book is gorgeous, and I'm really, really excited to read it. But that is it. Those are all of the books that I acquired at some point in March. If you are a person who sent me a book, thank you, thank you. If you're a person who sent me a message on my birthday, thank you. I am just like so grateful to everybody who made March a really special month for me, and it feels kind of like I'm getting back to myself, which is an exciting feeling. But yeah, thank you very, very much. I was so thrilled to receive some of these books. It's a huge stack, and I can't wait to read absolutely everything. Have you read any of these books? I assume that people have read some of these books. Let me know what some of your favorites were down in the comments below. Let me know which ones I should try to get to sooner rather than later. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!